Hey everyone, so with a free mod removal today, I decided to strip every single toon of every mod, except my Rocket Abe, because I don't plan on changing my Rocket Abe's mod set, because all he does is get the tower for me if it's 5 waves, and I think I did a video on this before on the best mods to use on Rocket Abe, because you can run him by himself in order to take a tower. So for this video, I want to take you guys kind of through my mindset when I go about modding my toons. And to do this, I'm going to do it completely from scratch. I'm going to do my defensive team, so my main defense that I'll use in war, as well as my main attacking team. I find modding to be very complex when doing an attack team and a defense team, especially if you have to think about characters that might run on both attack and defense. I also think it's important to think about toons not just as an individual, but how they work in a unit. Because you could mod each of your toons in a separate manner and then piece it together after, but I like making up my defensive team or attacking team first, and then deciding on mods after the fact based on how the synergy of a team will work. I think mod choice is one of the most complex parts of a game because based on the mods that you choose, it'll vary the type of team that you end up running. Some people, when they end up modding their toons, they think about ways on how to enhance their natural ability, or they try to supplement their ability. So if you have a very offensive toon, you might try to give them more defense or HP so that they're more balanced. And I will admit, sometimes it's very challenging to figure out when you need to enhance a toon's ability and when you need to create a more balanced stat set. And I think a lot of that also has to do with your style of play. I know there's a number of people who still run a very defensive-like toon on offense. So like take Pete, for example, because he's kind of like a safety net. So he doesn't really enhance your attacking ability, but he's more of a toon to recover in case you need it. Now, way back when, I used to run a very defensive and control-like team, so there was a lot of defensive mods on my toons in order to make them survive and really outlive my opponent. But now I have the toons to make a more offensive attack team, which of course is important because you score points by attacking and attacking fast. So now I'm going to construct my main attack team, and you guys are already familiar with this team. You know, I use my Diego lead, and then I use my Cole, and this is the Cole with a bonus 20% AP to self. So then I can command rush him with Glenn on turn 2 if I need more control that turn. I follow up with James and Priya. James because he's a huge attacker, Priya because she's a huge attacker, and she has a fair amount of control, especially with that daze. The one major downside to this team is that I don't have a disarm toon. So to start off, Diego, his job is to bring his leadership skill as well as to use his rush on turn 2. This way I can defense down and impair the enemy, which gives me a lot of power and control. So I want to set up a very defensive mod set for him. So I'm going to use a stun resist and an impair resist. Both of them, the stun resist is perfect. The impair resist is almost perfect. It's, I think, 73%. So it just means I have a very good chance on turn 2 to be able to use his rush. James, heavy attack. I explained in another video why I don't use crit set, but I use attack set. And it's because I want his damage spreading and for a more even amount of damage to spread to the adjacent toons. So an attack set, I'm putting a crit damage mod here, but actually after I made this video, I changed it back to attack up when impaired, just because when he's rushing, I, for some reason, always end up hitting a toon that ends up impairing him. So this will give him a bit more attack on his basic attack rush or on his basic attacks because it will apply to his collateral 2 damage, the attack bonus from the attack up when impaired, which obviously applies a lot more damage overall. So with my S-Class Priya, I'm actually going to go with crit set mods because unlike James, she does not have collateral 2, so she does pointed attack damage over 3 rushes. So by using a crit chance mod and crit damage set, I'm applying more damage to the target I'm actually targeting. And so any time that she gets a critical hit, she will apply more damage due to the critical attack and the crit damage mods. Moving on to Glenn, I know he needs a defensive build. He's a Generation 1 toon, so I need to make sure that he's a bit tanky so that he can take attacks if he is targeted. So a very defensive build. His only job is to really command, and to ensure he has the chance to do that, HP and defense. Graze also helps because it means he can sometimes take less damage. Defense versus alert so that he's not targeted by any alert toons, and if he is, he will get less damage applied to him. Moving on to my Cole, I need this one to be also kind of tanky because on the first turn, he could be taking 3 attacks from 3 S-class toons, and I need him to survive the first turn. That way on the second turn, if I need to, I can command rush him in order to control for another turn if in some case my Diego gets attacked and has AP drain, for instance. So another defensive build with a stun resist, because stun is one of the only things that can really stop him because he does have an active skill that also taunts and does attack down. And I will add another resist mod to him, which is a taunt resist mod, again, so that I still have access to his control on turn 2 if needed. If I'm, say, able not to stop a Dr. Stevens, for instance, from rushing, I might be able to get a turn 2 taunt rush off, so then I can at least control for a turn while some of my toons might be taunted or confused. Moving on to my current defense, Garrett is obviously a Generation 1 toon, but I won't be starting with him. I'm going to start with Kapoor. It's just he's a tank on defense, and his only job is really to cause the offense to slow down a little. I'm using a reflect damage mod just because if a Priya rushes him, he has a chance to reflect that damage back at least twice, but that's just because of his specialist skill, so dexterity, which is a combination of evasion as well as tenacity. So I'm switching over to a defensive build because I do have a perfect bleed resist mod in the defense set, and Kapoor having a lot of HP and defense, I know some people might try to bleed him out, so this is a great way in my opinion to stall the enemy a bit. Defense versus tough, so for those Priyas again, if a Priya rushes, I'm hoping the reflect damage mod will be able to reflect some damage and potentially kill the opponent. Moving on to Cole, my other Cole at that, so he has his disarm on his weapon still, and I'm going for another defensive build, just hoping that he can survive a first turn, and if he's not dazed, he will be able to use his taunt active skill. Now I do have a taunt resist on him, so that people who use Dr. Stevens won't be able to taunt him, hopefully, because it also is a perfect mod at 75% taunt resist for being a gold mod. And I think I'm going to go with a stun resist as well, just because his weapon is technically safe to hit on because the chances of a weapon going off are kind of low. So if someone tries to use green toons to stun me on attack, at least I have a way to possibly not feel that effect. Moving on to Dale, I'm going for another defensive HP build, and I was contemplating Graze at first in the bottom left hand corner, but I'm pretty sure I switched it over to Reflect just because Priyas do exist and they hit super hard, especially with their trade advantage. So defensive build to hopefully hold up. His job is mainly to command. He has an unsafe weapon on him, so if opponents attack him, he has the chance to impair them. So with him trying to use command, I want to have stun resist and taunt resist so that he can still do his job to command another toon to actually do some damage or just stall out the opponent a bit. What I'm going for on defense is just to give me more time in war on attack, because the more time that I have, that means the more chances I have to kill the enemy and score some points for my faction. So again, here I'm leveling up a reflect damage mod just because I know how often reflect damage mods have been killing me when I'm on attack, because I'm using toons like James and Priya that rely upon basic attacks on their rush, and those basic attacks can be blocked by absolute defense, a stun gun, I can become impaired. There's a bunch of different things that can happen, including having a reflect damage mod reflecting damage back onto me, or a reflect weapon. Now, I don't have too much hope for this Green Garrett because with Krista out there, I feel like he's still a pretty easy kill, but I'm just hoping to hopefully give enough defense, or sorry, HP to the rest of my team, as well as a huge bonus to AP when being attacked. So at the end, for instance, if I have to target Kapoor, maybe he can get off his rush, do some maim damage, as well as give some defense to the rest of my team. Now, James I've already modded for attack, so there's nothing I can really do about that. It's just going to be how it is. He's an S-class toon, so I kind of have to go with him because he has boosted stats anyway. So for now, I'm going to make one other attack team, and it's just a normal melee attack team. I'm going to use Camilla as the leader for this team. I'm going to utilize my Disarm Lily, and I'm thinking about using Diego because of his rush, which gives me a lot of control, and his active skill of focus helps a lot. I will end up running a human shield on this team, so I'm just going to move my toons over. I like having a certain order for my toons because they'll appear when I go into a match in a specific order, and by that I mean I can just click toon in spot 1, 2, 3, 4, and when I run a shield, I'm able to just hit the auto button, which means my shield will automatically shield, and the computer will take over and go through the opponent's animation at 3 times the speed, which speeds up my attack. So now I need to mod my Lily Disarm toon, so she needs to have a crit chance mod, but she's not a huge heavy hitter. So I'm going to give her a defensive mod set just so that she might survive a bit longer. I do like having stun resist just because there are many toons that have an active stun ability, and I want her to survive because her job is to disarm the enemy, as well as her active skill can 100% heal reduction to a single enemy as well as stun, and she will have a stun on attack weapon. Moving on to Camilla, I want her to apply some damage, but I also want to play it a bit safe with her, so I have to find a good mixture between that. I'm not really liking the mods that I have to choose from, so I'm just going to go with AP drain because that way on attack she might be able to drain the AP of the opponent, and she's going to be getting an impair on attack weapon, so I find the two couple together pretty well. An attack versus alert. Just there's a number of people who are running alert toons on defense. And lastly, give her some HP so she can survive a little longer. Thank you for watching my video.